Have you ever wondered why some people seem to attract wealth effortlessly while others struggle despite working twice as hard? What if I told you that 3 simple words spoken with absolute conviction before you even touch a lottery ticket could completely transform your relationship with abundance? This isn't about luck or chance. It's about understanding the profound universal law that governs all creation. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the globe. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. The secret lies not in desperately hoping or wishing, but in speaking from a place of certainty. When you declare from the end result, as if it has already happened, the entire cosmos must reorganize itself to match your inner state. These 3 powerful words, when charged with genuine feeling, hold the key to shifting what appears to be random chance into absolute certainty. Has this ever happened to you? You purchase a lottery ticket with hope, stare at it, maybe even pray over it. Yet deep down, there's that familiar whisper of doubt saying, "This probably won't work for me." That inner conversation is actually more powerful than you realize. It's setting the stage for exactly what will unfold. What most people completely miss is that the lottery isn't played on paper, it's played in consciousness first. The physical ticket is merely a mirror reflecting back your dominant inner state. One person scratches a card and calls it bad luck, while another scratches the same type and calls it answered prayer. The difference isn't in the paper that changes, but in the consciousness of the one who touches it. Stay with me until the end, because I'm about to reveal exactly how to access this creative power that lies dormant within you. The outer world is nothing but your feeling pushed out into form. When you truly grasp this principle, you'll understand why even the most sincere wishes often go unanswered, and more importantly, how to speak the creative word that makes wealth and sudden windfalls inevitable. What you're about to discover might surprise you because it challenges everything you've been taught about how reality works. You've been told that life is a game of chance, that fortune smiles on some and passes by others, through blind, heartless fate. But I'm here to tell you that's the greatest lie ever told. Now imagine holding a lottery ticket in your hands. Before you even check the numbers, before the drawing has even begun, what if you could access a state of consciousness so powerful that the outcome was already determined? This isn't about manipulating external reality through force or will. It's about aligning with a principle so fundamental that it governs all manifestation. The powerful truth is that all manifestation begins within. What most consider bad luck with lottery tickets or missed opportunities isn't random chance at all. It's actually been guiding you toward an incredible revelation about your own creative ability. Every disappointment has been silently pointing you back to your true power, imagination. This journey of transformation begins with recognizing that nothing, absolutely nothing, comes from without. All things come from within. The external world you experience is merely a projection, a reflection of your dominant inner conversations. When you truly understand this hidden truth, you'll see why changing your inner speech isn't just positive thinking, it's the fundamental law that reshapes your reality. If you found these manifestation principles valuable, hit that subscribe button to join our community of conscious creators. I share new insights on the law of assumption every week that can transform how you experience reality. Consider the profound impact of this mindset shift. The outer world has no choice but to bend and conform to your inner state. It's not a matter of opinion or wishful thinking. It's an immutable law, as consistent as gravity. The reason this principle often remains invisible to most people is that they're operating it unconsciously, unaware of how their internal dialogue is creating their circumstances. What appears in your life as luck or chance is actually imagination working below the surface of conscious awareness. The revelations of quantum physics increasingly confirm what ancient wisdom traditions have taught for millennia. Consciousness creates reality, not the other way around. When you glimpse behind the scenes of creation, you discover there are no accidents or coincidences. Look carefully at someone who consistently experiences defeat. They haven't been cursed by fate or born under an unlucky star. What's actually happening is far more significant. They've unconsciously rehearsed their defeat so faithfully in the sanctuary of their heart that the outer world has no choice but to echo that conviction. Their losses aren't happening to them, they're happening through them. This isn't about blame, it's about recognizing your incredible power. The decision to change your inner speech is the most consequential choice you'll ever make. When you understand this principle, you'll never again waste time fighting against external conditions or begging the universe for favors. Instead, you'll go directly to the source, your own creative consciousness. I remember working with a client who had played the lottery for over a decade without a single significant win. Her inner dialogue was filled with phrases like, "I never win," and "it's too good to be true." When I helped her recognize how these internal statements were actually commands to her subconscious, everything shifted. She began deliberately changing her inner conversation, and within months, she experienced her first major win, not through magical thinking, but through aligning with universal law. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic and reveal the specific internal mechanisms that transform your words into reality. Understanding this process will forever change how you approach not just lottery tickets, but every aspect of your life where you desire greater abundance and fulfillment. Write in the comments, "I am ready to claim my power," if you've recognized how your own inner dialogue might have been limiting your manifestations until now. The moment of decisive influence occurs far earlier than most people realize. It happens before your fingers ever touch that lottery ticket, before the drawing ever begins. In those quiet moments, something profound is taking place. Your inner conversation is literally setting the stage for what will unfold. These silent dialogues aren't just fleeting thoughts. They're powerful declarations to the universe. When you catch yourself whispering, "I never win," or "This won't work, but I'll try anyway," recognize what's really happening. These aren't just pessimistic thoughts, they're actual prayers that the law faithfully answers. Every whispered doubt becomes a blueprint that reality must follow. This revelation transforms how we understand the mechanics behind manifestation. Think about the journey of enlightenment that begins when you first grasp this principle. The subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between positive and negative statements. It simply accepts whatever you present to it with emotion and conviction. When you mutter, "I never get lucky with these things," you're not describing your reality. You're actively creating it. The most liberating mindset shift comes when you realize a profound truth. It's not the ticket that determines whether you win or lose. It's your consciousness as you hold that ticket. This isn't theoretical. It's a practical principle operating in your life right now. Two people can purchase identical tickets from the same store on the same day, yet experience entirely different outcomes based solely on their different assumptions. One person approaches with a consciousness of lack, mentally rehearsing past disappointments and expecting another. The other approaches with a consciousness of abundance, feeling the joy of receiving before anything physical has manifested. The tickets themselves have no power. They're merely neutral objects responding to the dominant vibration of the one who holds them. Behind the scenes of physical reality, this law operates with unfailing precision, like a mirror that can only reflect what stands before it. The outer world can only echo what you've established within. This explains why some people seem to be lucky, while others experience constant disappointment. There's no luck involved, only law. I witnessed a remarkable demonstration of this principle with two friends who entered the same raffle. One spent the entire event nervously repeating, "I'm probably wasting my money," while the other quietly maintained a feeling of, "This prize is already mine." When the drawing came, the results perfectly matched their inner conversations, not by coincidence, but by cosmic law. The impact of this understanding reaches far beyond lottery tickets. It revolutionizes every area of life where you desire positive outcomes. Your relationships, career opportunities, and health all respond to the same principle. They mirror back to you the essence of your inner dialogue with flawless accuracy. Let me guide you deeper into understanding the exact mechanism through which your assumptions become your experience, and the specific inner act that transforms possibility into certainty. Type, "I'm changing my inner conversation" in the comments if you've started noticing how your habitual thoughts might be influencing the results you're experiencing in your life. The mechanism behind this creative process functions with absolute precision, like a natural law that never fails. Consider how a magnet works. It doesn't strain or struggle to attract iron. It simply is what it is, and by its very nature, it draws its corresponding elements toward itself effortlessly. Your assumption operates in exactly the same way. When you genuinely assume wealth with complete inner conviction, not just positive thinking, but truly embodying the feeling state of abundance, money flows to you as inevitably as iron filings rush to a magnet. There's no forcing or manipulating involved. This profound alignment creates a magnetic field of attraction that operates beyond conscious effort. What makes this principle so revolutionary is that it reveals the true relationship between your inner world and what you experience externally. Most people go through life believing their emotions are reactions to external circumstances. "I feel discouraged because I never win," or "I feel excited because something good happened." But this perspective has the causal relationship entirely backward. Joseph Murphy expressed this breakthrough insight perfectly when he said, "It is easier to ascribe your feeling to events in the world than to admit the world is only your feeling pushed out." This revelation can be unsettling at first because it places responsibility squarely on your shoulders, but it also grants you incredible creative power. Every circumstance in your life, the abundance or lack, the connections or isolation, is not happening to you by random chance. It's happening through you. It's your internal emotional state made visible, your feeling atmosphere solidified into experience. The awakening process begins when you stop attributing your emotions to external events and recognize they're actually the creative force generating those events. Ready to go deeper with these powerful I am techniques? Subscribe to the channel now and you'll get notifications whenever I release new videos exploring how to apply these principles to health, relationships, and abundance. This understanding transforms your entire approach to manifestation. Rather than trying to change conditions directly, you shift your inner emotional landscape first. The blueprint for your life experience doesn't exist in some external realm. It exists in the feeling states you habitually occupy. I've guided countless individuals through this paradigm shift, and the results are always remarkable when they truly grasp this principle. One client who had struggled financially for years made a deliberate decision to cultivate and maintain the feeling of abundance regardless of her bank balance. Within 3 months, unexpected opportunities emerged that doubled her income, not by changing her external actions, but by altering the magnetic field of her assumptions. The journey toward mastery begins when you accept that what you're seeing and experiencing out there is actually a perfect mirror reflecting what you're feeling in here. Once you embrace this hidden truth, you can begin working with the creative process consciously rather than being unconsciously ruled by it. Let's explore how to deliberately use this magnetic principle to reshape your experience with money, opportunity, and yes, even those lottery tickets you've been hoping would change your fortune. Type "I am the magnet" in the comments if you're beginning to recognize how your assumptions have been attracting your current circumstances all along. Now, let's focus on the decisive shift that will fundamentally transform your creative potential. It begins with a simple but profound change in how you speak to yourself and about yourself. Instead of habitually saying, "I am unlucky" or "I am broke," begin making powerful declarations that align with what you desire to experience. "I am the winner, I am wealth, I am chosen." This isn't about positive affirmations. It's about recognizing and wielding your true creative authority. Most people make the critical mistake of waiting for external evidence before making these declarations. They want to see the winning ticket first, then feel abundant. But this approach keeps them locked in a perpetual waiting room of unfulfilled desires. The breakthrough comes when you realize the outer circumstances cannot change until you make the inner declaration with absolute conviction first. This represents a complete paradigm reversal in how most approach manifestation. The awakening journey begins when you stop describing what is and start declaring what shall be. When you proclaim, "I am wealth," while your bank account shows lack, you're not denying reality. You're exercising your divine right to choose which reality you'll experience. The cornerstone of this entire process is what Joseph Murphy called the law of assumption. This immutable principle governs all manifestation without exception. The solid-seeming world of events, circumstances, and physical things is actually just the echo of assumptions held in consciousness. This revelation completely transforms your relationship with reality when fully grasped. The genuine freedom in understanding this law comes with a profound responsibility. You can assume anything, abundance or lack, victory or defeat, health or illness, but you can never escape the consequences of your assumptions. They will inevitably be made flesh in your experience with mathematical precision. Behind the scenes of creation, this law operates silently, but with absolute fidelity. Your conscious mind may argue with these principles, but your subconscious faithfully accepts whatever state you assume as true. The enlightening moment arrives when you realize you've been unconsciously using this law your entire life, manifesting both wanted and unwanted experiences through your dominant assumptions. I've witnessed remarkable transformations when individuals fully embrace this understanding. One client had struggled with financial insecurity for decades. When she shifted from saying, "I never have enough," to consistently assuming, "I am abundantly supplied," her entire financial landscape transformed within months. New opportunities, unexpected income sources, and even a surprise inheritance appeared, not by coincidence, but by law. This realization initiates a profound mindset evolution. You begin to monitor your internal dialogue with vigilance, recognizing that casual statements like, "I can't afford that," or "I never catch a break," aren't merely describing your situation, they're creating it. The decision to assume wealth before evidence appears is the pivotal moment where your journey toward abundance truly begins. Let's explore exactly how the assumptions you hold become imprinted on the subconscious mind and how they inevitably manifest as your physical reality. Drop a simple "I assume abundance" in the comments if you're ready to start consciously working with the law of assumption instead of being unconsciously ruled by it. To understand the true mechanics of manifestation, we need to recognize the powerful partnership between your conscious and subconscious mind. Your conscious mind is like the architect that generates ideas and designs, but it's your subconscious mind that serves as the actual womb of creation, giving form to those ideas and bringing them into visible reality. This profound relationship is at the heart of your creative power. Think of your subconscious as the fertile soil that receives seeds. What you assume as true is impressed upon this subconscious mind, not through mere repetition or willpower, but through feeling. This is why so many people struggle despite affirming positive statements. They're missing the crucial element of genuine emotion. Once truly felt at the subconscious level, your assumption must be born into physical form. It's a spiritual gestation process that follows immutable cosmic principles. The transformation occurs in that sacred space where your conscious declaration meets subconscious acceptance. When you whisper, "I am wealth," with genuine feeling, the subconscious doesn't argue or question. It simply receives this impression as absolute fact and begins orchestrating circumstances to match this new blueprint. This insight reveals the hidden architecture behind manifestation that few truly comprehend. Now let's clarify a crucial distinction that represents a genuine revelation in your manifestation journey. True assumption is vastly different from wishful thinking or idle daydreaming. Many confuse positive thinking with the actual creative act, but they're worlds apart. Assumption is the deliberate acceptance of a state as if it were already yours, a complete mental embodiment of your desire fulfilled. It means taking the end as accomplished fact and steadfastly refusing to acknowledge any contradictory evidence. When you genuinely assume the state of being wealthy, you don't hope for wealth or think about becoming wealthy someday. You psychologically occupy the state of wealth right now. You see through the eyes of a wealthy person, feel the emotional security of abundance, and carry yourself with that quiet confidence, even while your bank account temporarily tells a different story. This profound mindset evolution represents a complete paradigm shift from conventional manifestation approaches. Most people try to move from their current reality toward their desired state, constantly reinforcing the gap between where they are and where they want to be. The breakthrough comes when you reverse this process entirely, when you dare to stand in the end result and look back, rather than standing in lack and looking forward. I've witnessed extraordinary demonstrations of this principle with clients who were willing to make this perceptual leap. One gentleman had been struggling with chronic debt for years. When he finally grasped what it meant to live from the end, to assume the feeling state of financial freedom before any evidence appeared, his entire financial landscape transformed within weeks. Unexpected checks arrived, new income opportunities emerged, and debts were resolved through channels he couldn't have consciously orchestrated. Let's explore how this principle of living from the end becomes even more powerful when applied with unwavering persistence and emotional intensity. If you've experienced moments where you felt so certain about something that it eventually manifested exactly as you imagined, type "I've lived it already" in the comments. The key to mastering this manifestation process lies in a simple yet revolutionary shift in how you express your desires. Most people unconsciously sabotage their manifestations by using future tense, "I will be rich someday," or "I hope to win eventually." This places the fulfillment always at a distance, perpetually out of reach. The profound transformation occurs when you shift to present tense. "I am rich now," and then rest in that state until it hardens into fact. This linguistic and psychological shift might seem subtle, but it represents the difference between perpetual struggle and inevitable triumph. When you declare, "I will be," you're actually affirming your current lack. When you declare, "I am," you're collapsing time and claiming your desire as already accomplished. This decision to live in the end, result psychologically, is where your true creative power resides. Let me share a remarkable testament to this principle that beautifully illustrates its practical application. A doctor and his wife had desired to own an apartment building for over 15 years. Despite their professional success, this particular dream remained elusive. They worked, saved, planned, and researched, yet the building never materialized. Their breakthrough finally came when they discovered the hidden truth about dwelling in the end. Instead of continuing to struggle in the external world, they began an entirely internal journey. Each night before sleep, they would mentally walk through the halls of their apartment building. They would feel the texture of the walls, hear the sounds of satisfied tenants, and experience the profound pride of ownership. They engaged all their senses in this imaginal act with such intensity that it began to feel more real than their physical surroundings. The impact of this consistent mental practice was nothing short of miraculous. Without spending a single dollar of their own money, the outer world reorganized itself to match their inner experience. A contractor unexpectedly approached them with plans. A financing company offered favorable terms they hadn't sought out, and the building literally rose from the ground, manifesting exactly as they had imagined it internally. What makes this story so compelling is that it reveals the genuine architecture of manifestation. They didn't make the building appear through physical effort. They created an inner experience so vivid that the physical circumstances had no choice but to rearrange themselves. Accordingly, the building was first built in consciousness and only then in brick and mortar. This principle applies with equal power to your lottery tickets, financial goals, and every other desire. The conventional approach says, stare at the ticket and hope. The enlightened approach says mentally experience the joy of winning first and then touch the ticket. This paradigm reversal is where true mastery begins, not in trying to manipulate external reality, but in creating such a vivid internal reality that the external must conform. The consistent practice of living in the end, feeling the relief, joy, and gratitude of your desire fulfilled, creates a psychological certainty that gradually crystallizes into physical fact. This mental alchemy represents the most profound revelation about how manifestation actually works. Share a simple "I am living in the end" in the comments if you're ready to make this crucial shift from hoping for future fulfillment to claiming your good as already accomplished in consciousness. This principle becomes even clearer when we observe the stark contrast between different people's experiences with identical circumstances. Two individuals can approach the exact same opportunity, whether a lottery ticket, a business venture, or a relationship, yet experience dramatically different outcomes. What separates them is not external luck or random chance, but the internal assumption each carries. One person assumes defeat and faithfully receives it. Another assumes victory and just as faithfully receives that. One mentally rehearses poverty with vivid emotion. Another rehearses wealth with the same intensity. Each receives precisely what they assume with mathematical precision because the law cannot be mocked or circumvented. It operates with the same unfailing consistency as gravity, indifferent to our opinions about it. This revelation completely transforms your understanding of what's actually happening in your life. What appears as bad luck or good fortune is actually the perfect, faithful reflection of your dominant assumptions. The awakening journey begins when you recognize that outcomes aren't happening to you by chance. They're happening through you by law. The difference becomes even more profound when we distinguish between speaking about the end and speaking from the end. Most people speak about their desired outcomes as distant possibilities. I hope to win. Maybe this time it will work. I'm trying to manifest abundance. This approach, however well-intentioned, keeps the fulfillment perpetually out of reach because it affirms the current state of lack. The enlightened approach is to speak from the end as if you were already there. Instead of saying, I hope to win the lottery, you live in the consciousness of, I am so grateful to have won. Rather than, "I'm trying to improve my finances," you declare, "I am abundantly supplied in all ways." This profound shift in perspective collapses time and brings the future into the present moment psychologically. What makes this principle so revolutionary is that it completely reverses conventional understanding. The lottery is not governed by luck, but by law. It's not the numbers on the card that determine your fortune, but your state of consciousness when approaching it. If you genuinely assume wealth before touching the ticket, feeling it as an accomplished fact rather than a desperate hope, wealth becomes the only possible outcome. Behind the scenes of manifestation, this principle operates with perfect consistency. The challenge for most lies in the perception gap, the temporary void between the internal assumption and its external manifestation. During this gestation period, the senses may still report lack or limitation, tempting you to abandon your assumption. The true test of faith comes in maintaining your assumption despite contrary evidence. I've witnessed the transformation that occurs when someone truly grasps this distinction. One client had played the same lottery numbers for years, with no significant wins. When she shifted from hoping about victory to assuming from victory, internally experiencing the joy and relief of winning before purchasing her ticket, she won a substantial sum within weeks. The numbers hadn't changed, but her consciousness had, and that made all the difference. Let's examine more closely the crucial element that bridges the gap between empty words and powerful creative speech, the often misunderstood role of genuine feeling in the manifestation process. If you've noticed how different your experiences are when you approach situations with certainty versus doubt, share "I manifest what I assume" in the comments. Here we reach the most crucial element that determines whether your words remain empty or become potent creative forces, the power of genuine feeling. This is where most manifestation practices fall short. Many people dutifully repeat affirmations or positive statements without understanding that words without feeling are barren seeds that never reach the womb of creation. They simply cannot take root. It's not the phrase itself that moves mountains, but the emotional intensity behind it. You could repeat, "I am wealthy," 1,000 times with mechanical precision, yet if there's no genuine feeling accompanying those words, they'll produce nothing. The subconscious mind, that powerful creative center within you, is impressed only by emotion, never by empty repetition or intellectual concepts. This represents a profound revelation about the actual mechanics behind manifestation. Think of it as the difference between handing someone a seed versus planting that seed in rich soil. The affirmation is the seed, but feeling is the fertile ground where it must be planted to grow. When you declare, "I am the winner," while simultaneously feeling the genuine joy, relief, and gratitude that would accompany actually winning, you've properly planted the seed. It now has everything it needs to germinate and grow into physical reality. This explains why two people can use identical affirmations, yet experience dramatically different results. One speaks the words mechanically while internally doubting or contradicting them. The other speaks fewer words, but infuses them with authentic emotion and unwavering belief. The second person will invariably manifest their desire because they've fulfilled the true requirements of creation. The journey toward mastery continues with another profound insight that completely transforms how you understand reality creation. Your outer world, every circumstance, relationship, and experience you encounter is nothing but the echo of your inner conversations. The physical realm isn't creating your experience, it's reflecting the conversations you've been having with yourself. Life doesn't respond to what you say aloud to impress others or what you pretend to believe. It answers with mathematical precision what you say inwardly when alone with yourself. These private dialogues, the thoughts you think no one hears, the assumptions you make in the quiet of your mind, these are your true prayers, and they are always answered. Behind the scenes of creation, these inner conversations are continuously being projected outward and returning as your life experience. When you mutter to yourself, "I never win anything," or "money doesn't come easily to me," you're not describing your reality. You're creating the blueprint for what must manifest. The subconscious doesn't distinguish between negative and positive statements. It simply accepts what you present with feeling. This revelation places extraordinary power in your hands. By consciously directing your inner conversations toward what you desire rather than what you fear, you literally reprogram the creative mechanism. Every time you catch yourself in a negative internal dialogue, you can choose to shift it, not as a technique of positive thinking, but as a direct engagement with the creative process itself. Let's explore the profound distinction between willpower and genuine faith, and why one leads to struggle while the other produces effortless manifestation. If you've noticed how your life experiences seem to match your inner dialogues, type "My words create my world" in the comments. This insight leads us to the practical transformation that can revolutionize your entire life experience. When you genuinely change your inner conversation, you literally change your world. This isn't metaphorical, it's the actual mechanism through which your reality is created moment by moment. The breakthrough journey begins when you consciously monitor and redirect the dialogue that runs continuously in your mind. Most people allow their inner speech to flow randomly, often dominated by worry, doubt, and negative expectations. They replay past disappointments, rehearse potential problems, and continuously narrate limitations. I never have enough. Things never work out for me. I'm always struggling. This unconscious habit creates a perpetual cycle of the very circumstances they don't want. The liberation comes when you deliberately begin speaking differently within yourself. Instead of muttering, "I am poor," when facing a bill, declare with conviction, "I am wealthy." Rather than sighing, "I am unlucky," when thinking about opportunities, affirm, "I am favored in all things." This isn't about denying current appearances. It's about exercising your divine right to choose which reality you'll inhabit next. The psychological transition requires vigilance at first. You'll need to catch those habitual negative statements and consciously redirect them. It's like learning any new skill, initially requiring attention, but eventually becoming second nature. What makes this practice so powerful is that you're working directly with the creative mechanism rather than struggling against effects. Joseph Murphy often shared a remarkable demonstration of this principle that conclusively proved how inner speech becomes outer reality. It's known as the ladder experiment, and its elegant simplicity makes its results all the more compelling. He instructed students to perform a simple mental exercise each night for a week before falling asleep. Imagine climbing a ladder. They were to feel the rungs beneath their hands, experience the muscular sensation in their arms, and mentally see themselves moving upward. Participants were told to keep this exercise private and not to deliberately seek out ladders in waking life. The results were extraordinary. Within just days, many found themselves unexpectedly climbing ladders in their waking experience, fixing lights, reaching shelves, helping with tasks that required ladders. Without conscious intent or arrangement, the outer world rearranged itself to match their inner experience. What makes this experiment so revelatory is that it demonstrates the principle with something neutral. Climbing a ladder isn't typically charged with the emotional resistance that might accompany financial or relationship desires. It provides clear evidence that your inner experience literally shapes external circumstances through an invisible but precise law. If this principle works with something as simple as climbing a ladder, consider the implications for wealth, relationships, and opportunities. The same mechanism is operating when you declare, "I am wealthy," or "I am the winner." The outer must conform to the inner by immutable law, not eventually or hopefully, but inevitably. Let's examine more deeply the profound spiritual dimension of this practice, and why these three words, "I am," carry such extraordinary creative power. If you've ever experienced surprising coincidences after intensely thinking about something, share "inner" becomes "outer" in the comments. Now I want to reveal the profound spiritual dimension that makes these manifestation principles so powerful. When we look at ancient spiritual texts, we find a remarkable revelation about the creative force you've been using all along, perhaps unknowingly. In the biblical story of Moses at the burning bush, a pivotal moment occurs when Moses asks for God's name. The answer is extraordinary in its simplicity. "I am that I am." God identified himself not as Jehovah or Allah or Brahma, but simply as "I am." This revelation unveils a truth that has been hidden in plain sight. The name of God is your own consciousness of being. The divine creative power doesn't exist as a distant entity, separate from you. It expresses itself through your awareness of being, your sense of "I amness." This means that every time you say "I am," you're actually invoking the divine creative principle that shapes worlds. The implications of this understanding are revolutionary. You are not merely making statements when you declare "I am," you are literally engaging the same creative power that, according to Scripture, spoke the universe into existence. This isn't metaphorical or symbolic. It's the actual mechanism of creation operating through your consciousness right now. This insight transforms how you approach the manifestation process entirely. It's no longer about techniques or methods, but about recognizing the sacred nature of your own being and the creative authority you exercise with every "I am" declaration. The awakening journey reaches a new depth when you realize you're not merely affirming, you're commanding creation itself through the divine name. This understanding also reveals the hidden danger in careless speech. When you declare, "I am weak" or "I am unlucky," you're not merely describing conditions. You're taking the divine name in vain by clothing it with unworthy attributes. You're commanding the creative law to manifest weakness or misfortune in your life. Scripture warns against this very thing. "Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain." Most people completely misunderstand this commandment, thinking it refers only to profanity. The deeper meaning becomes clear when you recognize that every "I am" statement is actually invoking the divine name. To say "I am sick" or "I am broke" is to use the sacred creative principle against yourself. The law, being impersonal and precise, must then bring forth exactly what you have declared in the divine name. This revelation places extraordinary responsibility in your hands. It means watching your declarations with reverence and care, recognizing that you're engaging with the most powerful force in existence with every "I am" statement. The person who grasps this principle begins to treat their inner speech as sacred, knowing that each declaration sets in motion the perfect law that must produce after its kind. Let's explore how this understanding transforms your approach to wealth and success, especially when facing circumstances that seem to contradict your desires. If this perspective on "I am" as divine creative power resonates with you, type "I recognize my creative authority" in the comments. Now let's address one of the most common questions people ask when first encountering these principles. Isn't it dishonest to say "I am rich" when my bank account shows otherwise? This question reveals a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of reality and the creative process. This apparent contradiction is resolved when you recognize a profound truth. Declaring I am rich, while your pockets appear empty, is only dishonest if you believe the physical senses are the final authority on what's real. When you understand the actual architecture of creation, that the unseen is always the cause and the seen is merely the effect, then declaring I am rich from a place of inner knowing isn't dishonesty. It's actually speaking the highest truth. You're acknowledging the creative process in its proper order. The inner state always precedes the outer manifestation, just as a blueprint precedes a building. This revelation represents a complete paradigm shift in how you relate to reality. Most people live entirely governed by their senses, believing only what they can see, touch, and measure. But the awakened individual recognizes these physical impressions as merely the shadow of a deeper reality, the end result of previous thinking, not the starting point for new creation. When you declare I am wealthy while bills remain unpaid, you're not denying current appearances. You're exercising your divine authority to choose which reality you'll experience next. You're speaking from the causal realm rather than the world of effects. This subtle but profound distinction marks the boundary between those who remain victims of circumstance and those who become conscious creators. The journey of transformation deepens when you recognize that every time you declare, I am, you're not merely making a statement, you're issuing a command to the universe. Each declaration is a directive that sets in motion the perfect law that must produce accordingly. The universe, which is nothing but your own subconscious mind externalized, obeys these commands with perfect fidelity. This means the lottery ticket you hold isn't just paper, it's a mirror reflecting back your own declaration. If you approach it declaring, I am unlucky, it must show you loss. If you approach declaring, I am the winner, it must reflect that truth in its appointed time. The numbers aren't independent forces floating in space. They're neutral servants awaiting your command. Behind the scenes of creation, this principle operates with mathematical precision. When you say, I am healthy or I am sick, you're not describing conditions, but commanding them into being. When you declare, I am successful or I am a failure, you're not reporting on circumstances, but creating them. The subconscious doesn't distinguish between what you want and what you don't want. It simply executes what you command through your I am statements. This understanding places extraordinary creative power in your hands. It means you're not helplessly reacting to a pre-existing world. You're actively creating your world through these divine declarations. The revelation transforms your entire approach to manifestation when you recognize you're not hoping or wishing or even affirming. You're commanding creation itself. Let's explore how you can harness this creative power specifically when standing before a lottery ticket and the exact inner state that transforms random chance into inevitable success. If you've begun to recognize the commanding power of your I am statements, type I command my reality in the comments. Now let's address the critical element that determines whether your declarations actually create change or remain empty phrases. This is where many people experience frustration in their manifestation journey. Even after learning about the power of I am statements, they find their words falling flat, producing no visible results. The missing ingredient isn't more words or better affirmations, it's authentic feeling. The revelation that transforms your entire practice is this: the subconscious mind receives impressions not through words alone, but through the emotion behind them. Words by themselves have no creative power. They're simply vehicles for the feeling that does the actual work of impressing upon the subconscious. This insight explains why many people can repeat affirmations for months or even years without seeing changes. Think about the profound shift that occurs when you recognize feeling as the actual medium of creation. Most traditional approaches to manifestation focus almost exclusively on finding the perfect phrases or repeating affirmations a specific number of times. But these approaches miss the fundamental catalyst. It's not the quantity of your words, but the quality of emotion behind them that creates your reality. Joseph Murphy expressed this principle perfectly when he said, "Feeling is the secret." This statement encapsulates the essence of successful manifestation. Words without genuine emotion are like seeds held in the hand, instead of planted in fertile soil. They may be perfect seeds with tremendous potential, but until they're planted in the ground of feeling, they remain dormant and unproductive. Consider the stark difference between these two approaches. One person mechanically repeats, "I am wealthy," with complete indifference, mentally contradicting the statement even as they speak it. Another person whispers, "I am wealthy," just once, but with a profound thrill of gratitude and joy, as though abundance has already been received. The first person is holding an unplanted seed. The second has planted it deeply, ensuring an inevitable harvest. This understanding revolutionizes your entire approach to manifestation. Rather than focusing on perfect wording or endless repetition, your priority becomes generating and sustaining the feeling of your wish fulfilled, the emotional state of already having what you desire. The relief, joy, gratitude, and certainty becomes the actual creative force. Behind the scenes of creation, this emotional component serves as the bridge between your conscious declaration and subconscious acceptance. The subconscious mind, which ultimately executes the manifestation process, doesn't understand intellectual concepts or respond to logical arguments. It speaks the language of feeling, recognizing and responding to emotional states with absolute precision. I've worked with countless individuals who transformed their results by shifting their focus from words to feeling. One gentleman had affirmed wealth for years with no results. When he finally grasped the importance of emotional engagement, he began spending 5 minutes each morning feeling the security, freedom, and joy of financial abundance, as though it were already his experience. Within weeks, unexpected opportunities emerged that doubled his income. Let's explore how you can cultivate this feeling dimension with precision, particularly when your current circumstances seem to contradict your desired state. If you've noticed that your manifestations seem more successful when you feel emotionally connected to your desires, share "feeling is my creative power" in the comments. The question naturally arises, how do I generate authentic feeling when my current reality contradicts what I'm declaring? This is where the transformative power of imagination becomes essential to your manifestation practice. When your physical senses report lack or limitation, you must rely on your imagination, that divine creative faculty, to bridge the gap between current appearances and desired states. To generate the necessary feeling when your external circumstances deny it, close your eyes and dare to imagine what it would feel like if your desire were already true. This isn't idle fantasy or escapism. It's the actual creative mechanism through which all manifestation occurs. When you can mentally step into the reality where you've already won the lottery, already achieved financial freedom, or already experienced your breakthrough, you access the emotional state that makes creation possible. The crucial insight is to feel the specific emotions that would accompany your fulfilled desire. The profound relief of financial pressure lifted, the expansive joy of abundance, the deep gratitude for answered prayer, the quiet confidence of security. These emotional states aren't just pleasant experiences. They're the actual medium through which your subconscious receives the impression of your desire as accomplished fact. This practice requires a willingness to temporarily set aside physical evidence and enter fully into an imaginal scene. When you hold the lottery ticket in your hand, close your eyes before checking the numbers and mentally experience what it would feel like. If they matched perfectly, Feel your heart rate increase. Experience the wave of excitement. Mentally hear yourself calling a loved one with the news. Make it so vivid that your body responds as though it were actually happening. Then, from that emotional state, declare with conviction, "I am the winner." The revelation that transforms your entire approach is recognizing that imagination isn't separate from reality. It's the very workshop where reality is first crafted before appearing in the physical world. What most consider just imagination is actually the causal realm where all creation begins. This understanding elevates imagination from mere daydreaming to conscious participation in the creative process. Now let's address perhaps the greatest stumbling block that prevents successful manifestation. Most people make the critical mistake of speaking of their wish instead of from it. There's a profound difference between these approaches that determines whether you remain in perpetual wanting or move into actual having. When you say, "One day I will win," or "I'm going to be financially free," you're actually confessing that you don't have it now. You're speaking as someone separated from their desire, looking toward it from a distance. This perspective, however well-intentioned, actually reinforces the gap between you and your goal, keeping it perpetually in the future. The awakening journey begins when you shift from the language of hope to the language of fulfillment. Instead of "I will be wealthy," you declare, "I am wealthy now." Instead of "I hope to win," you state, "I am the winner." You speak not as one who desires, but as one who already possesses. This isn't about denying current appearances, it's about recognizing which state has creative authority. This mindset evolution represents perhaps the most pivotal shift in consciousness available to us. When you can genuinely speak from the end, as though your desire were already accomplished, you in collapse time and bring the future into the present moment psychologically. Share "I speak from the end result" in the comments if you're ready to stop speaking about what you want and start speaking from having already received it. To fully grasp this principle of speaking from the end, you must make a profound philosophical shift in how you understand reality itself. Most people believe the physical world they see, touch, and measure is the primary reality, while thoughts and feelings are secondary or less real. But this perspective is completely reversed from the actual truth. The outer world is but a shadow, while your inner state is the substance. This revelation transforms your entire understanding of creation. What appears solid and unchangeable is actually the effect, not the cause. Your inner world, the state you occupy psychologically, is the causal realm from which all physical circumstances emerge. When you declare "I am" from the end result, you're not speaking aspirationally about a future possibility. You're speaking absolute truth from the causal dimension. Truth is not what appears to the physical senses. Truth is that which is unseen, eternal, and shapes the shadow world of appearances. This understanding liberates you from bondage to current circumstances. When you see your bank account showing lack, you recognize it as merely the shadow of past thinking, not the determinant of your future experience. When you feel the weight of a lottery ticket, with seemingly random numbers, you understand it's simply waiting to reflect back whatever consciousness you bring to it. This principle was beautifully demonstrated in Joseph Murphy's famous journey to Barbados. Without any money for fare, without any outward prospects or means to fulfill his desire, he applied this exact principle. Instead of saying, "I hope to visit Barbados someday," or "I'm trying to manifest a trip," he assumed the state of already being in Barbados so completely that it became psychologically real to him. Every night before sleep, Murphy would mentally transport himself to his father's house on the island. He would feel the tropical air on his skin, hear the distinctive voices of the locals, smell the ocean breeze, and experience all the sensations of actually being there. He didn't just visualize these things. He embodied the feeling state so completely that Barbados became more real to him internally than his physical surroundings in New York. The result of this persistent mental practice was nothing short of miraculous. Without him taking any conscious steps to arrange it, circumstances rearranged themselves to match his inner state. A series of unexpected events culminated in him receiving passage to Barbados without paying anything. The external journey was merely the shadow following the substance of his inner journey, which had already been completed in consciousness. The profound revelation here is that Murphy didn't create the trip through effort or planning. He simply aligned himself with the reality where the trip had already occurred. The physical manifestation was merely the outer world, catching up to what was already accomplished in consciousness. This same principle applies directly to your lottery ticket. Instead of hoping it will match the winning numbers, mentally place yourself in the reality where it already has. Feel the emotions, experience the relief and joy, hear the congratulations. Make it so real internally that it's more vivid than your current circumstances. When you declare, "I am the winner from this state," you're speaking truth from the causal realm. If you've experienced moments where your inner convictions seem to override external impossibilities, share "inner reality creates outer reality" in the comments. Now let's address one of the most common pitfalls that sabotages the manifestation process, a danger that remains invisible to most people, yet profoundly impacts their results. Many diligently plant seeds of manifestation through affirmation in their quiet moments, only to unconsciously uproot them through contradictory speech throughout their day. This pattern creates a frustrating cycle where positive intentions never fully materialize. Consider what happens when you sit in meditation, declaring with conviction, "I am the winner," or "I am wealthy," feeling the truth of it deeply, but then hours later casually joke with friends, "With my luck, I'll lose again," or "I'm always broke at the end of the month." This contradictory speech creates a profound inner conflict. You're essentially planting wheat and weeds in the same mental field, then wondering why your harvest is compromised. The subconscious mind, that faithful servant of your creative process, doesn't distinguish between serious declarations and casual remarks. It simply accepts whatever is spoken with feeling. When you contradict your deliberate affirmations with careless everyday speech, you're sending mixed signals that create mixed results. The law must respond to both the positive and negative commands with equal faithfulness. This revelation transforms how you approach everyday conversations. Those seemingly innocent, self-deprecating jokes about never having enough money, those casual references to bad luck, those habitual complaints about opportunities always going to others. These aren't harmless remarks. They're powerful creative declarations that the subconscious accepts as commands to be manifested. The journey toward mastery requires developing an acute awareness of these contradictions in your speech patterns. Many people affirm abundance for 20 minutes each morning, then spend the rest of their day unconsciously affirming lack through casual conversation. This divided mind produces divided results, some evidence of progress mixed with continued limitation. That's why guarding your speech becomes one of the most transformative practices in your manifestation journey. Treat your words as the precious treasure they truly are. Refuse to speak of lack, even in jest. Decline to joke about misfortune or rehearse stories of past failures. Recognize that every word you speak carries creative power, especially when it follows those sacred syllables, "I am." This vigilance may seem demanding at first. You'll likely catch yourself mid-sentence about to express a limiting belief that contradicts your conscious intentions. That moment of awareness represents a profound evolution in your journey. You're beginning to recognize the hidden patterns that have shaped your reality thus far. The decision to align all your speech, both in private meditation and casual conversation, creates a unified field of creation where your desires can flourish without contradiction. when every statement reinforces your chosen state, when every casual remark supports your deliberate intentions, you create the perfect conditions for manifestation. Behind the scenes of creation, this consistency establishes the clear blueprint that your subconscious faithfully executes. Rather than receiving conflicting instructions, it receives a unified command that produces unified results. The transformation begins with monitoring not just your deliberate affirmations, but the countless casual statements that previously undermined them. If you've noticed how your casual remarks often contradict your deepest desires, share "I'm watching my words" in the comments. This journey toward mastery now leads us to a concept that will completely transform your relationship with manifestation, what Joseph Murphy called the mental diet. Just as your physical body grows strong or weak, healthy or ill, based on the food you consistently consume, your inner world, your soul, grows rich or poor based on the words you feed upon. This nutritional metaphor perfectly captures the impact your mental consumption has on your life experiences. Think about how carefully some people monitor their physical diet, scrutinizing ingredients, avoiding toxins, selecting foods that nourish rather than deplete. Yet these same individuals often consume mental toxins without hesitation. Negative news, catastrophic thinking, stories of lack and limitation. The transformation begins when you apply the same vigilance to your mental consumption that health-conscious people apply to their physical diet. If you consistently feed on words of lack and limitation, "I never have enough," "good things happen to others, not me," "I can't afford what I really want," you're literally programming your creative mechanism to produce more experiences of scarcity. The law, operating with perfect precision, delivers exactly what you mentally digest and accept as nourishment. Conversely, when you deliberately feed on words of wealth, abundance, and possibility, "I am abundantly supplied," "opportunities constantly seek me out," "I always have more than enough," you're providing the essential nutrients for prosperity to manifest. Your internal environment becomes fertile ground for abundance rather than scarcity. This dietary discipline requires conscious choice about what you allow into your mental and emotional space. It means sometimes turning off the news, stepping away from complainers, or redirecting conversations that reinforce limitation. It means selecting books, videos, and relationships that nourish your highest vision rather than reinforcing your fears. The profound shift in consciousness occurs when you recognize that feeling yourself already in possession of your desire is the most powerful creative act possible. To feel yourself already the winner, before any external evidence appears, is to actually draw the future into the present moment psychologically. This collapse of time is the true mechanism of manifestation. Ask yourself right now, what would it feel like to hold the winning ticket in your hand? What sensations would move through your body upon seeing the matching numbers? What thoughts would race through your mind? What emotions would wash over you? The vividness with which you can mentally experience these reactions literally creates the bridge between desire and fulfillment. Instead of approaching this as visualization or imagination, approach it as memory. The difference is subtle but profound. When you remember something, you don't strain or force. You simply recall what already happened. Approach your desired manifestation with this same natural ease. Don't try to create the feeling of winning. Remember the winning as if it already occurred. This slight perceptual shift transforms the entire manifestation process from effort to recognition. This feeling dimension represents the true art of manifestation. Anyone can repeat words or visualize images, but the master enters so completely into the feeling of the wish fulfilled that it becomes more real than the temporary physical evidence to the contrary. If you've noticed that Genuine emotion seems to accelerate your manifestations. Type "feeling creates reality" in the comments. Now I want to share a profound technique that can completely transform your relationship with the past and liberate you from the burden of previous disappointments. Most people believe that once something has happened, especially a failure or disappointment, it's permanently fixed in time. But Joseph Murphy revealed an extraordinary creative act he called revision that completely transforms this relationship with the past. Through the conscious application of revision, you can literally breathe new life into past failures. This isn't about denial or pretending something didn't happen. It's about exercising your divine authority to reimagine and thereby reshape the emotional impact and influence of past events. When you revisit a scene in your imagination and feel it unfold differently, you plant a new seed in the subconscious that remarkably reshapes both your past and future. Think about the liberation this understanding offers. Perhaps you've experienced disappointment with lottery tickets in the past, seeing numbers that didn't match and feeling that familiar sting of loss. Most people carry these memories as emotional anchors that weigh down future attempts. But through revision, you can mentally revisit those moments. See yourself checking the numbers again, but this time feel the exhilaration as they match perfectly. Experience the rush of joy. Hear yourself exclaim. With excitement, feel the wave of gratitude wash over you. When you persist in this revised scene until it feels more emotionally real than the original memory, you're not merely playing pretend. You're actually rewriting the subconscious impression. The original experience loses its emotional charge and influence over your present state. This mental alchemy doesn't change the historical fact, but it transforms how that event affects your creative mechanism going forward. The revelation here is that the past only influences your present and future through the impressions it leaves in your subconscious mind. Change the impression through revision, and you change the seed that's growing into tomorrow's reality. This practice liberates you from being chained to previous disappointments and opens new possibilities previously blocked by old failures. Now let's address perhaps the greatest challenge in this manifestation journey, confronting the tyranny of appearances. When you declare, "I am wealthy," while your bank account shows lack, when you affirm, "I am the winner," before seeing matching numbers, you'll inevitably face the test of contradictory evidence. This is where most people abandon their creative power and bow to external circumstances. The transformational insight is recognizing that your senses show not truth, but shadows, not causes, but effects. The visible facts of your present circumstances are merely hardened beliefs from your past thinking. They have no creative power unless you grant it to them. When you understand that external evidence is simply the harvest of previous seeds, you're no longer intimidated by temporary contradictions. This perspective shift represents perhaps the most profound awakening on the spiritual journey. Most live entirely governed by appearances, believing only what they can see and touch. But those who grasp the creative process understand that visible circumstances are trailing shadows, not leading causes. They're the echo of yesterday's thinking, not the blueprint for tomorrow's experience. If you've experienced moments where you refused to accept what circumstances were showing you and held to your inner vision until reality changed, type "I choose inner truth over appearances" in the comments. Now I want to reveal one of the most reassuring aspects of this manifestation process, how the law actually operates to bring your desires into visible form. When you assume the end result, when you genuinely embody the feeling state of already having your desire, the law automatically sets in motion what Joseph Murphy called a bridge of incidents. This is a perfectly orchestrated series of events leading from your current state to your desired state. The liberation in understanding this principle is recognizing that you don't need to plan, orchestrate, or micromanage this bridge. Your task is much simpler. Live consistently in the feeling of the end result while the bridge constructs itself, often in ways you couldn't possibly anticipate or consciously design. This insight removes the burden of figuring out how your desire will manifest. Think about the profound transformation this understanding creates in your journey. Most people exhaust themselves trying to mentally plot every step between their current reality and desired outcome. They create elaborate plans, worry about details, and often abandon their goals when circumstances don't unfold according to their limited vision. But the awakened individual understands that the how is not their responsibility. It belongs to the infinite intelligence of the law. When you assume the state of having already won the lottery, for instance, a series of events will unfold. Perhaps an impulse to purchase a ticket at a specific location, a chance conversation that leads you to select certain numbers, or even initial disappointments that actually position you perfectly for the ultimate manifestation. What might initially appear as setbacks or detours often turn out to be essential components of the perfect bridge. I've witnessed remarkable demonstrations of this principle with clients who fully surrendered the how while maintaining unwavering faith in the end result. One woman desired a specific position in a company that had no openings. Instead of anxiously plotting strategies, she simply lived daily in the feeling of already having the job. Within weeks, a completely unexpected reorganization created not just any position, but the exact one she had envisioned, through a bridge of incidents she could never have consciously orchestrated. The revelation that brings this entire process full circle is recognizing the sign that your assumption is ready to manifest physically. There's a subtle but unmistakable shift that occurs when your desire moves from effort to effortlessness, from longing to knowing. You'll know your assumption is about to materialize when the state you once strained to feel becomes completely natural. When your desire no longer feels distant or impossible, but ordinary and inevitable. When you no longer need to remind yourself to believe because it feels more normal to expect fulfillment than to doubt it. The harvest is near. This naturalness is the surest indicator that your subconscious has fully accepted the seed and manifestation is imminent. The psychological journey progresses from initial struggle, this feels like pretending, to gradual acceptance, this could actually happen, to complete naturalness. Of course, this is happening. When you reach this final stage where your desire feels as normal and expected as sunrise, you've arrived at the threshold of physical manifestation. If you've experienced that moment when something you once struggled to believe suddenly felt completely natural right before it manifested, share "naturalness precedes manifestation" in the comments. Now let me share a profound truth that brings immense peace to those walking this manifestation path, the principle of divine timing. Every assumption you make, every seed you plant in consciousness, carries within itself not just the blueprint of fulfillment, but the perfect timing for its physical emergence. There exists a natural gestation period between planting and harvesting that cannot be rushed by anxiety or delayed by external circumstances. Just as a farmer understands the rhythms of nature, planting in one season and harvesting in another, the awakened individual recognizes there's a perfect unfoldment to each desire. The farmer doesn't dig up seeds daily to check their progress. He doesn't pace the fields in anxiety. He plants with confidence, tends with care, and then rests in the absolute certainty that the harvest will come in its appointed season. This perspective completely transforms your relationship with manifestation. Most experience frustration during the waiting period between inner acceptance and outer expression. they repeatedly check for evidence, growing increasingly doubtful as days pass without visible change. This anxious monitoring actually disrupts the natural gestation process, like repeatedly digging up a seed to see if it's growing, which prevents it from taking root. The revelation that brings profound inner peace is recognizing that your assumption, once clothed in feeling and accepted by the subconscious, has its own divine timetable that cannot be rushed by worry or hindered by doubt. Your task isn't to force manifestation, but to maintain unwavering faith in its inevitability while allowing the perfect process to unfold. Behind the scenes of creation, countless elements are being orchestrated, circumstances rearranged, people positioned, timing perfected, to deliver your manifestation in its most ideal form. What appears as delay is often divine protection, ensuring all components align perfectly. I've witnessed countless instances where people later expressed profound gratitude that their desire manifested exactly when it did, not when they initially demanded it. Now I want to take you beyond the mechanics of manifestation to reveal the ultimate promise that transcends all material prizes. While the law faithfully delivers lottery winnings, financial abundance, and every external desire, there awaits a far greater revelation, the discovery that I am is the divine presence within you. This spiritual awakening represents the true treasure behind all manifestation teachings. As you master these principles, something extraordinary begins to happen. You realize the creative power wasn't in the technique or the words, but in your own consciousness. The very awareness saying, I am, is the divine presence expressing through you. Most spend their lives as beggars at life's gate, pleading for crumbs of good fortune, never recognizing they are the very source of all abundance. The profound transformation occurs when you awaken to this ultimate truth. You are not the supplicant hoping for favor. You are the creator of the feast itself. This revelation completely shifts your relationship with manifestation. External prizes, while wonderful, become secondary to the recognition of your divine nature. You no longer manifest from a place of lack or need, but from the natural expression of abundance that you already are. The joy of winning the lottery pales in comparison to discovering you are the source of all winning. Share I am the source, not the seeker in the comments if you're beginning to sense this deeper spiritual dimension behind all manifestation principles. As we come to the end of our exploration into these profound principles of manifestation, I want to thank you for journeying with me through these revelations about your true creative power. What we've discussed today isn't just theory, it's a living practice that transforms not just external circumstances, but your entire relationship with reality itself. If you've resonated with these teachings about the power of I am, I'd be honored to continue sharing more of these life-changing insights with you. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, not just to get notifications, but to join a community of conscious creators who are applying these principles in their daily lives and witnessing remarkable transformations. The wisdom we've explored today represents just one facet of Joseph Murphy's profound teachings. Each video builds upon these principles, offering practical applications and deeper insights into how you can harness your creative power in every area of life: relationships, health, purpose, and yes, even those lottery tickets. If this message has touched something within you, perhaps awakened a recognition of truth you've always sensed but couldn't quite articulate, leave a comment saying, I recognize the power within me, so I know these teachings have found the right audience. And if you found value in what we've shared today, a simple like helps these teachings reach others who might be searching for exactly this message at exactly this moment in their journey. Right over here, you'll find a video that takes these principles even deeper, exploring how to apply the power of I am specifically to healing relationships that seem broken beyond repair. Click and join me there to continue expanding your understanding of these transformative teachings. Remember, the greatest discovery isn't winning the lottery. It's recognizing that you are the divine presence, expressing itself as you. That recognition is the true prize beyond all prizes.